With a fresh suit, an old shirt and even less hair than ever before, welcome to the Ruairidh Awards 2014. Fanfare will play. With lighting like a Cuban prison cell, editing done with crazy scissors and Pritt stick, and a backdrop made from papier-mâché, this might be the worst studio I've ever worked in. I say studio, it is my room. This is the Ruairidh Awards presented from my room. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So another year has come and gone. 2014 was a really good year for myself and cinema. I was working at a cinema from January to July, and what with me being able to see every film for free, I thought the best thing to do would be to make a promise to myself that I would see all the films that we got in. So I was there for 6 months, and in that time I only managed to miss 6 films. So that was very exciting. It's a big year in other ways. I got my first job in film. I was a runner on a big project with Tommy Lee Jones and Ryan Reynolds and Michael Pitt, and it was very exciting, so there's that. What with me having seen so many films in those first 6 months, you would assume that I would now be some like amazing critic with loads of skills who knew what he was talking about. But the problem with the Ruairidh Awards we've got is that so many of the winners this year were seen after that 6 month period, so kind of wasted time, but even still, thanks for the memories. So if you could please give a rousing applause for the main man presenting the awards, Monkey, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, there he is. Down he goes. Here they all are, the big shiny medal there that says the Ruairidh Awards. Definitely says that. We're going to crack straight on, we don't want to be messing about here. So the first award of the evening is for biggest disappointment. Always start with a negative, that's my rule. This award sadly goes to a film I had such high hopes for. Don't ask me why, because watching the trailer back now it just seems ridiculous that I ever thought this was going to be a good film. But it is The Other Woman. My hope was that it might be a film that went, look, women being funny, they can do it after all, what a surprise, who'd have thought? But instead it turned out to be a film that was every bit as demeaning as you would expect from a Hollywood film when it was meant to be, you know, showing these strong independent women taking it back, sticking it to the man. How did they stick it to the man? Oh yeah, let's pull down his trousers in the office, show he's got a little willy. Oh, rub your boobs in his face, he'll hate that. It was so sad. I didn't laugh, and I just came out feeling very disappointed with where they'd gone. On to the next award, it is Best Soundtrack. And when I say soundtrack, like I don't mean score or anything like that, just the choices that I've gone for are very much just quite like the music from that film, and that'll do for me. Firstly, a big mention for Happy Christmas, for their use of Joel Almay's music. Hope I'm saying that correctly. What I liked was the way his music was actually woven into the narrative of a film that was essentially just a character study. It was a really simple but effective idea. The point where it's the rekindling of a fractured relationship while his music's just playing in the background, it was really beautiful. I really liked that scene, and just throughout the film it was used really nicely. Second major mention goes to the Gone Girl soundtrack. The beauty of that soundtrack was that it was every bit as manipulative as the narrative of the story. There were points during the film when I thought, right, I definitely know how I feel about this character, I definitely know where it's going and who's done what, and then the soundtrack would go, but what about this? And I'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, what about that? No, take away the synth, I don't understand anymore. I was constantly kept on my toes, and there was no point where I got to the right place in my head of where the narrative was going. It was very good. But this year the award is going to one that a lot of you might disagree with. It's Chef. A lot of Spanish Latino influences. The main reason I want to give it the award is just because it brought me so up at a time when I was like really low in my life. For me, that film didn't get anywhere near enough credit. It was crammed fuller than a extra large McDonald's Happy Meal of happiness and tiny little snapshots of family life and family struggles and friendship. Just tiny snapshots of scenes of simple happiness, and the music just really rattled it along. I practically danced out of that cinema screen, you know, and then I went back home and cried. The next award is film that most made me want to run out of the cinema screen. My rule is simple and with good reason. If you don't watch a film to the end, you can't really comment on it. You can say, oh, I didn't really enjoy the first half, and that's fair enough, but you cannot have a rounded opinion of the whole of the film if you haven't seen it all. I'd prefer, even if you hate a film, if it's only going to be like 2 hours, you may as well you've watched half an hour of it and disliked it, you may as well stay for another hour and a half and just say, at least you've seen the full film. And I know that can be really hard. God knows I've sat through He's Just Not That Into You 3 times, man. I have suffered in ways you would not believe. So at the beginning of January, after a horribly short Christmas break, I had a lot of films to cram in. I was at the cinema and I had, I think, 4 screenings that day to get through. And I made the decision, yes, I did this, to leave the grueling, squirming, uncomfortable mess of a film that was the Harry Hill movie. I have never been so pleased to have a justifiable reason to get out of the cinema. And though, by my own rules, I now can't hold an opinion on the film, I've still made its own category for it. Go figure, I don't know. The next award is for Best Films Not Released in 2014. What a hell of a year it's been for me discovering old films. First, Hellraiser. Second, Searching for Sugarman. And thirdly, Let the Right One In. Two of which were from my horror season, where I wanted to dedicate a bit of time to actually learning a little something about a genre of cinema that I knew next to nothing about. I've still got a long way to go, but that was the one that when we went down to the video store, I'd see the front cover with Pinhead on it and I'd think, what adult would genuinely choose to watch a film that looks as terrifying as that? Like, what thrill is there to be gained by being scared out of your wits? And now that I've finally come round to that way of thinking, as an adult, it did not disappoint in any way. I loved it. Search for Sugarman is this lovely 2013 documentary about the myth around this musician who was said to have burnt himself on stage and committed suicide in all these various ways, and then it turns out it still exists. He's written some beautiful albums. It was a great way for me to discover a new artist that I'm a huge fan of, and just a really great documentary. As for Let the Right One In, it may well be one of the best films I've seen in the past 10 years. Out of every film that I mention in tonight's show, if I could urge you to see one film, it would be that. On to the next award, it's Biggest Surprise. And the winner of this award is The Fault in Our Stars. Nerdfighters represent. I say Biggest Surprise because having read the book and really enjoyed it, I was worried that the film would overhype the sentimental bits and miss out all the bits where it got very real indeed. Now, sentimental it is, and cry I nearly did, but it managed to stay on the right side of real, and for a film aimed primarily at teenagers, I really, really enjoyed it. The next award, a big one, is for Worst Film. I've always had huge problems with how much I actually enjoy Breakfast at Tiffany's because of those horribly racist scenes that are sort of dotted throughout it. But frankly, when it comes to Mrs. Brown's Boys, racism is the least of its problems. One of the worst films I've seen in years, it wins this award hands down. And the racism in it is brushed off as that kind of, oh for God's sake, can't you take a joke kind of way. You know, that kind of 12-year-old bully mentality where you're kind of forced into going, yeah, I can take a joke, alright then, yeah, I guess it's not that racist. It's an easy trap to fall into, to go, oh yeah, go on then, have a go at the Japanese, yeah. No, they do struggle saying their W's, isn't it? Yeah, go on then, have a laugh, yeah, that's funny that, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I'm honest, I might be able to let it go if I was overwhelmed by jokes throughout the film later on, but I laughed once, and that was before the film started because a guy was stumbling in when it had turned dark and tripped up. So that gives you an idea of my level of humour, and the film didn't even reach that. I mean, if you enjoyed it, fair enough. Well, no, actually, no, fuck that. If you enjoyed it, please comment below and let me know so that I can unfriend you. It is a despicable, loathsome, hateful piece of work that somehow managed to get funding from the BBC of all places, and tries to disguise that by making it a film about the diversity of people in Dublin. That takes real balls. Or, apparently in this case, a vagina. Moving swiftly on to Best Comedy. Nice juxtaposition there. Big mention here for Obvious Child. It's a very fine film and shows how problems can build in small doses and become kind of overpowering. It had a great lead performance from Jenny Slate and I really admired its subtle, warm humour. But the winner of the award this year shouldn't really surprise anyone. It is of course the Lego Movie, simply because I saw it 3 times in as many weeks and every time just left the cinema like skipping with joy with that song in my head. It just reminded me that from time to time everything really is awesome. Is there a single film critic who has reviewed that film without saying that at the end? Because I'm one of them. I want to join them. I'm in the crowd now. A new award for this year's Ruairidh Awards. It is the winner for Best Line from pretty much any film I have ever seen ever. It goes to Patricia Arquette in Boyhood, written by Richard Linklater. The line is, okay, so her boy's going away to college and she has a breakdown and sort of takes it out on him angrily, like she gets overwhelmed with emotion, and rather than cry and say, I'm going to miss you, she shouts at him and she says, I just thought there would be more. And isn't that just the perfect line for all of life? Man, that killed me, that line. It got me. We're into the big leagues now, so Monkey's back again with the second envelope. Here he is, look. And we go on to the standout male performance. And this year it goes to Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal. Can you explain to me how this character's brain works? Because I've still no idea where I stand with him. Is he, what, like, autistic, sadistic, like, mentally unstable, just really driven, or all of the above. It was a performance from a man who has really grown to be one of my favourite actors over the past few years. It really took me by surprise and left me reeling for weeks afterwards. And on to the next award, it's Standout Female Performance. Well, no surprises here. It's Essie Davies for her performance in The Babadook. There was nothing else really came close. It was a really great act that showed this sort of slow and subtle disintegration into madness. Congratulations to her. Brilliant, brilliant performance. And the penultimate award of the evening, it is Best Director, and it goes to Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler. The real joy this year has been reading up about his process with Jake Gyllenhaal. It seems Gyllenhaal made a lot of the decisions behind what the motivations were for the character as much as Gilroy did. Gyllenhaal came in and knew the whole script backwards, so they could just do a take and then do retake after retake and try different things and come up with ideas on the spot and say, okay, let's give it a go. The film is a modern classic and it's made up almost entirely by his performance. He's incredible and the direction is beautiful. So now we come to the most important point of the evening. It is the top 5 best films as voted for by just me. I just come up with them myself. At number 5, it's the brilliant Starred Up. Now, God knows I am a sucker for a prison drama. It was at times overblown, I thought, but at other points the passion of the writer really came through and you could tell that he was trying to show these people as not just inmates of a prison, but people who needed care and attention. And the general attitude is, fuck it, lock them up, they've done the shit, deal with it. But to show these people who sort of progressed as people and learnt new skills and stuff, and anger management issues and stuff. It's a really small thing, but it was a really close study with that idea. I guess it was a character study mainly, and the father and son relationship, and that dynamics between the two was constantly in fluctuation, and it was really good to see how that played out. It was an outstanding performance from Jack O'Connell. Had a really claustrophobic feel to it. At number 4, it is Blue Ruin. Do you know what else I'm a sucker for? Is it a revenge thriller, Rory? It is, Monkey. Well done, yeah. Are you looking at that cue card? Cheating. But Blue Ruin is a revenge thriller like I've never seen before. The lead character is a protagonist who's constantly unsure if he's making the right decisions, so any murder that does take place between any of the characters is not done in that exploitation style that's, you know, good fun and it's like you enjoy the revenge, but it's like, oh shit, what the fuck are you doing, man? It's really disturbing. It has so much more impact because there's little music and sparse dialogue. It was just 90 minutes of me like drawing blood from digging my nails into the palms of my hands. Netflix is waiting for you, so get on it, it's there. At number 3, it is the magnificent Babadook. I wanted to give this film its own award for best horror film ever made by a million miles, ever, without competition, but apparently we couldn't actually fit it on the little award there. So instead it's winning, Jesus, the list is huge. Best horror, best female performance, best original character, and best catchphrase. The Babadook. I don't know how many times I've said it, I still can't do the voice right at all. Babadook. I was very pleased to see that this won big at the Australian Independent Film Awards. On the one hand, it's a throwback to the old school horrors. On the other, it's a deeply impactful psychological thriller. It brings completely original ideas to a genre of cinema that has, in recent years, been lazy and samey and just a little bit boring. And it wasn't just that it scared me, I found it genuinely disturbing to the point where at one point I wondered whether I might have to leave the cinema because it was getting to me so much, you know, the abuse of the mother to the child and stuff. I was like, did something, man. There is so much I want to say about this film, but that's probably best saved for another video at another time. Watch it in the dark, by yourself, and prepare for a horror film like you have never seen before. At number 3, it is The Babadook. At number 2, a film that there's not really much left I can say about it. It's Nightcrawler. It has the sexualisation of power seen in Sidney Lumet's early work. This idea of the lone character driven by their own delusions seen in the sort of early Scorsese and Robert De Niro collaborations. Well, mainly King of Comedy comes to mind. And yet, despite all these comparisons, it still manages to stand out as an entirely unique film. It is brilliant and worthy of all the praise that has been heaped on it. I just want to add my own to that one. So at number 2, Nightcrawler, brilliant film. And finally, with the most coveted Rory Award, it is the best film of 2014. Monkey? At number 1, it is Calvary. Oh, we're lucky to have reached the end, aren't we? It's a comedy that's not quite black, but very dark blue. You know, the premise of the film is that it starts with the priest in a confessional booth and the guy comes in and says, I was abused as a child by a priest and in return I'm now going to kill an innocent one. and he's told he's got a week before he's going to shoot him, and it follows him throughout that week. It manages to play itself out as a whodunit, or rather a who is going to do it, but it still has all these other themes running through it, you know, the complexities of small town life, the long-term effect of being brought up with organised religion, the way in which people will heap blame and their own problems onto the Catholic Church. Every character is so beautifully realised, and I laughed more times than I can remember. More than anything, I found it deeply affecting as well. I'm sure we've all got our problems with the Catholic Church, myself as much as anyone else, but it does that beautiful thing of having everybody pointing towards the church and then actually finding that they need to bend it back. This would work better if I wasn't holding the can. Pointing the finger at the Catholic Church and then, you know, finding that it's their own flaws that are actually the problem. The guilt lies at the other end of the wrist, sort of there-ish. That's the exact point. That's a terrible analogy. We'll get rid of that. I've really fucked up that final one. That's the best film and all I can do is make up some weird wrist analogy. I apologise. Another from the Madonna brothers, who are just consistently brilliant. In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths and The Guard and now Calvary. Perhaps they wouldn't want to be lumped in together as just the same. It's a who's who of famous Irish actors. Brendan Gleeson and Dylan Moran and Chris O'Dowd, and every single scene sort of has those moments of tenderness where you sort of feel bad for laughing because you can see just how dark the themes that are running through it are. And so we come to the end. Have you enjoyed yourself there, Monkey?
Yes, I think that was the best ever awards ceremony ever.
He's being sarcastic, but another year out of the way, and 2015 is already shaping up to be a brilliant year for films. I've seen some excellent ones so far, and we're only into February. I think what I like about doing these awards is that, you know, I get to give films a little bit of credit that they wouldn't get otherwise. So if there's any that I've mentioned tonight, I'll put some kind of links down below and you can go and check them all out or watch a few trailers or whatever. I posted a Facebook status a few weeks ago asking you all what your favourite films were. An overwhelming response, thank you very much for that. Guardians of the Galaxy came up an awful lot, I was surprised at that, but a very enjoyable, fun film. If you disagree with any of the films that I've chosen, please comment below and let me know what your favourite films were if you haven't already. And I'll see you next year and hopefully sometime in the year before that. Thanks for watching.